How many knows that mothers have a high priority in a child's life in the building of a child? It is at the top of the list. Who spends the most time with a newborn? Who spends the most time with a 2- and 3-year-old? Right? Most of the time, that's going to be your mother, unless your mother is an absent mother and for whatever reason she's not there. But I was thinking about the different sermons that you hear on Mother's Day. And, you know, I guess I could have just put together a tune canna sermon, if you would, for you today. One maybe about Hannah. How many knows about Hannah in the Bible? That's probably the most widely taught and preached Mother's Day sermon. Or maybe one about Ruth. Anybody know Ruth? What about Mary, the mother of Jesus, and how much of an influence and how she told him, whatever you do, just do what he tells you to do. Or maybe the Shunammite woman that was the Lord provided for her because she made a commitment to do the things of the Lord. But what about the mother of Timothy, the grandmother, Eunice and Lois, the mother and grandmother of Timothy? These are sermons that are going to be widely preached and talked about in every service. But I was thinking about my wife and about how that she, growing up, and how she was a mother to our kids. And I can remember this one time, and I've probably already told it, but William loved to complain to his mother. And I kind of remembered that was me also. I loved to complain to my mother growing up. But William, he had convinced his mother that maybe football wasn't for him and maybe he should just quit. And so he come to the kitchen table, and it was all staged and it was all set up. I was set up. I was at the kitchen table, Aaron, and I was set up, okay? And then they started, Amy says, honey, William has something he wants to talk to you about. And so I'm thinking, all right, well, this ought to be interesting. And he wanted to tell me all the things that you could do with the time that was better. And he was already been through 2 or 3 years of practice for football, and I had spent hours with him while he was working out, and how he sat there at the table with his mother with tears in her eyes, and he had tears in his eyes, explaining how he wanted to quit. That's where my sermon came, you can't quit. Y'all probably haven't heard it, but I preached it in a Sunday school class. There's something about quitting that don't sit right with me, but a son can talk his mother into anything, and William had convinced her that it was too hard, it was too tough, it was too rough. But I knew that there was character being built. And so from a father's perspective, and we'll talk about that Father's Day, but from a father's perspective, it was my job to make them tough. And I guess it was her job to make them soft, right? But this week I come across a story on social media about a gospel musician, and many of y'all may have already heard this story. But he talked about his father and how his father worked at the factory. And his father, he had 2 older brothers, and the 2 older brothers, they took after their dad, and their dad believed in hard work. And so his 2 other brothers, because his dad was a big wheel at the factory, it opened up doors for his brothers. And his brothers went into management, if you would, at the local factory and worked hard. And their dad was so proud of them, but the oldest son and then the middle son went, and opportunity was available. And this was, if you would, insurance that he would have, and each one of them got good pay and got good benefits, if you would, and a paycheck. But whenever it come time for him, he decided that he didn't really want to go to the factory. He worked a little bit, but it wasn't for him. His love was music. He loved to play the piano. And as he played, it aggravated his dad that he was a different kid. He wasn't like the oldest kid, and he wasn't like the middle kid, but he was his own different mindset of somebody that was maybe a little on the artsy side, we would call him sissified, if you would, right? But he was not a man's man, but he wanted to play and he wanted to be in the ministry. And so he talked about in his story about how his dad come home one day and he took the backing off of some carpet and yellow. How many knows the pattern that went to carpet is yellow or it's gray? And he went and he stapled it to the walls of his bedroom where he had his piano. And he said, I get sick and tired of hearing you play this piano. I'm getting tired. This is not going to amount to nothing. And his dad was kind of hard on him, but he said that his mother was a different voice in his life. That she would never do it in front of the dad. She would wait for her dad to maybe leave the house, but then she would slide into the bedroom and put her arm around him, and she said, oh, it's going to be okay, Bubba. God has big plans for you. God has the ability to take the worship. Play me a song on that piano over there. And he would say, well, all I know is your favorite hymn. And he would play it for her, and she would wipe the tear from her eyes, and she would say, that's a great song, Bubba. God's going to do great thing for you. That's what it comes whenever not all children are maybe strong and of the type that wants to go and sling a sledgehammer. Some children are a little bit different. Not all young mothers have, not all young men have the same capabilities as the next. Some will go to college. Some become a chemical engineer. Maybe another becomes a nurse. And then maybe another one just works as an electrician. But maybe one will feel a calling upon his life for ministry. You see, mothers have a huge impact on their children. We're all made uniquely and individually. Every one of us. We're different. Just because you don't like to hunt or fish does not mean that you're a sissy. Some of our best musicians and singers are not lumberjacks. Think about that. Some have a talent of entrepreneurship. But very rarely do we find someone that has the ability to have all of the characteristics bound into one person. Rarely will you see someone that is a hunter, a farmer, and an entrepreneur, and a piano player, a bass player, a drum player, and a great singer. It usually doesn't happen that way. But I'm reminded of a story in the Bible. And as I listened to that story, and I turned it and I watched it twice of that musician. But I was reminded in the stories, he told his testimony. About in the Bible, one of my favorite stories is the story of Joseph. How many know the story of Joseph? Joseph was the favorite child of his dad. No doubt Joseph was different. Joseph was the youngest son until Benjamin come along. Rachel was the pretty wife, and Leah was the maybe the tender-eyed wife. Rachel had been barren, and God finally gave them Joseph. So Rachel had been barren, and God finally gave Jacob and Rachel Joseph. But if I could title this little thought this morning, I want to title it, Mom's Plan for My Nation. Look at your neighbor and tell it, Mom's plan, my mom's plan for my nation. There you go. So Jacob spent a lot of time doting upon the little one, Joseph. How many know what kind of coat he made him? He made a coat of many colors. This symbolized favoritism and distinction. When Joseph had dreams, he shared them with his brothers, depicting them bowing down to him. And Jacob took these dreams serious. The dad did. He said, "Oh no, son, these are serious." And I believe that Jacob talked to Joseph about it. Joseph, no doubt, went to his dad and said, "Dad, my brothers are making fun of me." I believe Joseph was teased by his brothers. He was much smaller when he was compared to them. They were a rough lot. Joseph had to stay back at home. The rest of them got to go out and have a good time and go have a campfire and tend the flocks. But Joseph is back at home. We don't have a date of when Rachel died, but history tells us that Rachel, Joseph's mom, died somewhere between the time he was 10 years old and 17 years old. You see, Joseph, when he was thrown in the pit, he was 17 years old. But before that, all he had was his dad. And his belief that I believe that at some point Jacob took him aside. And Jacob said to him, he said, "Son, I want to tell you a story. My mom was just like your mom. My mom couldn't have any children. She and my dad prayed. And God finally allowed her to conceive. But when she was pregnant, she could feel twins inside. And there was a great struggle going on. And she inquired of the Lord. And he told her, there are two nations inside your womb. Two different types of people. Both of them would be separate. The Bible says both of them will be separate from your bowels. One people will be stronger than another, but the elder shall serve the younger. And this is what God told my mom. So you see, I was a twin with your uncle Esau, but we were born about the same time. I don't know why people made such a big deal about it. He was only a couple minutes older than me. But my dad spent time with Esau. And he spent lots of time with him, but he never took time with me. He taught him how to fish. He taught him how to hunt. And he taught him how to be a man's man. He was technically the oldest, but only by minutes. I guess technically my fate was to be the second son. I guess that's why I've spent time with you, Joseph. This is Jacob talking to Joseph. That's why I spent time with you. I understand what it's like to be left out. I was left out, just like you were. I want to read to you Genesis 25 and 21 through 28. I didn't have you stand and I didn't read a text because I wanted to give you groundwork before I preached it to you. Genesis 25 and 21 through 28 reads as this. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife because she was barren. And the Lord was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, two nations are in thy womb, and two manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years when she bare them. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter. a man of the field. And Jacob was a plain man, dwelling in tents. And the Bible says in verse 28, and Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison, but Rebekah loved Jacob. You see, there is something in the heart of a mother whenever she sees a son and a daughter not loved, not cared for. There's something in her that wants that son or that daughter to be somebody and to be something. But as Jacob continued on talking to Joseph, he told him that my dad loves Esau, but my mom loved me. She prayed and she asked the Lord, what could she possibly build into me? What skill could she give me? She couldn't do it with strength because Esau was stronger than me. She couldn't do it with weapons because Esau knew how to shoot a bow and knew how to throw a spear better than I did. I didn't have them skills. What could mom give to someone like me for my nation? My dad would make comments about how I was a loser and I was just a simple man, as the Bible states. He didn't know that them words, they hurt me. And I cried to my mom. So here's what my mama did. My mom prayed to the Lord. And God spoke to her. Rebekah, use the gifts that I gave you. So my mom devised a plan for my nation. My nation was going to be built on keeping the house. I was taught to clean and cook. I was taught how to grow a garden, herbs and spices that were needed to make pottage or soup. I was taught to mend tents and how to make them. I thought to myself, this is never going to work. Esau will get everything anyway. He has the birthright. He gets the majority of the inheritance. But my mom kept encouraging me and she said, son, just hold on. I kept cooking. She taught me how to manage the house. That seemed like a girl's thing, but that's what she instilled into me. And she told me, hold on, son, I'm teaching you something. She taught me how to run the household. She taught me how to manage the servants. Then she taught me about finances. All the while Esau is having a great time with dad. And finally, one day Esau walks in starving. I'd been cooking, and he wanted my pottage. So I sold him a bowl of soup for his birthright. To him, the birthright meant nothing, but to me and to my nation, it meant everything. Mom had taught me about the birthright and the importance of having the birthright that I only missed by minutes. She explained to me that Esau's nation would always be stronger than mine. But we must have the birthright, Jacob. Wisdom was not my brother's thing, and he wasn't really all that smart. And all he wanted to do was hunt and fish and have a good time with the boys. So for the last 10 years, Joseph, I've been training you how to run a house. When you've been back here with Benjamin, I know he's your little brother. He's 10 years younger than you, maybe. And he's your little brother, but you don't know I've been teaching you about the house. I've been teaching you about finances. And I've been teaching you how to cook. This is how we're going to build a nation. Not just a regular nation, but a great nation. These are the words that I believe that Jacob instilled into Joseph. Because we see when Joseph finally makes it to Potiphar's house, he uses the skills on how to run a house. He uses the following skills. He uses administration. He displayed strong administrative abilities by overseeing the affairs of Potiphar's house. He uses organization. He implemented a systematic structure of policies and procedures in the house to ensure a smooth and functioning house that was blessed of the Lord. He also had trustworthiness because he had to get Potiphar first to trust him. He had to implement problem-solving skills that Mom had taught him, that Mom had taught me, and then I had taught him. Interpersonal skills and stewardship and adaptability. He had to adapt to any situation. But then one day, Joseph is falsely accused and thrown into a prison. And what does he do there? He learns the interpretation of dreams, because as he was telling his dreams to his brothers, and his brothers made fun of him, Jacob, his dad, took him along and he said, "Son, maybe what you need to do is learn about how to interpret your dreams." So counseling and empathy was a cornerstone of Joseph. And as he sat in the prison, and every prisoner that come in, he went to that prisoner and he talked, "Where you been? What have you done? Where can you fit into the system, the prison? And where can I put you in? I have a fine running machine here, and I don't want anyone to clog it up." And so he found giftings of every prisoner, and he put them into a place that they could be used. Because this is how you build a house. Leadership among the prisoners. The warden, he had to be trustworthy for the warden to turn over everything. The Bible says that the warden just said, "Here's the prison, it's yours, run it." Here's the interesting thing. When he finally makes it to Pharaoh's house, he is ready to run not just a house, not just finances, not just accounting, not just taking care of a couple servants, but he has a whole kingdom to run. Because Rebekah taught Jacob how to build a nation off of keeping the house. To this day, if you think about it, the Jews have skills as a nation, not of strength. Strength cometh from the Lord, but in keeping a house. God was upset when David numbered Israel because he was their strength. They didn't need to know the numbers of warriors that was available. He would go before them. Jericho would not fall because of the military, but because God caused the wall to fall. Exodus 14:14. The Lord shall fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. This is Israel we're talking about. Deuteronomy 1:30-31. The Lord your God which goeth before you, he shall fight for you, according to all that he did for you in Egypt before your eyes, and in the wilderness where thou hast seen that the Lord thy God bare thee. As a man doth bear his son in all ways that ye went until you come into this place. Deuteronomy 3:22. You shall not fear them, for the Lord your God, he shall fight for thee. Deuteronomy 20:4. For the Lord your God is he that goeth with you to fight for you against your enemies, to save you. 2 Chronicles 20:17. You shall not need to fight in this battle. Set yourselves. Stand ye still and see the salvation of the Lord with you, O Judah and Jerusalem. Fear not, nor be dismayed. Tomorrow go out against them, for the Lord will be with you. Nehemiah 4:20. In what place therefore ye hear the sound of the trumpet, resort ye thither unto us. Our God shall fight for us. And finally, Isaiah 54:17. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Every tongue that shall rise up against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of our nation, the servants of the Lord. And their righteousness is me, saith the Lord. God wanted a nation that knew how to to keep a house. You see, you could have been taught how to fight. You could have been taught how to kill. You could have been taught how to hunt. You could have been taught how to fish. But the importance for the Jews to grasp and for the Jewish people has always been, and how do we keep a house? Israel's strength has been economic power. The ability to efficiently run a household is still in the bloodline. The house of Rothschild, which was an economic power for years, was a Jewish family. The Rockefeller family from Standard Oil that was worth billions and trillions in today's dollars, they were a Jewish family. Some of the wealthiest billionaires in the world, you will know their names, such as Larry Ellison of Oracle Corporation, worth $121.8 billion. Michael Bloomberg, $94.5 billion. Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook, worth $83.3 billion. Or Michael Dell from $54.1 billion. It still runs in the bloodline because regardless, that nation was built on how to keep a house. So let me ask you something on a Mother's Day. How important is it to listen to your mom? Sometimes moms have wisdom. Sometimes it's not always best to fight. Sometimes it's best just to learn to keep a house. This is what the Lord spoke to me. Think about it. The church is the house of the Lord. He's looking for people that know how to keep a house. He's not looking for someone that knows how to take a gun and shoot someone, or someone that knows how to take a baseball bat and beat people up. He's not looking for strength. I am your strength, God says. I am someone who will fight for you. All I need is someone like you that knows how to keep a house. Because if you know how to keep a house, then all other nations will bow down to you. And that's why the Jewish people are God's people. They know how to keep a house. Could we stand? I believe that He is calling us today to keep His house. How do we do that? We have to use the skills that Mom has given us. Skills of empathy. Bear ye one another's burdens. We have to use the skills that the church, which is called the mother, we have to use the skills of the church. What is that, Brother Patton? That's finding the hurting. That's finding the less fortunate. Calling and putting your arm around someone that is hurting and say, I'm here for you. Can I take you somewhere? Can I take you to lunch? Can I take you to dinner? Can I talk to you? It's our job as the church to keep the house. Let God fight for us. He's our strength. But it's up to us to know how to keep the house. I wonder if every mother, if you could, I want to get all the mothers to come up to the front. If you're a mother. I didn't want to go too long today. We have my wife is going to come up. She's going to talk to our mothers. And we have a gift for you this morning. But I want to tell you, you're valuable. What you have instilled in your kids, what you've instilled in your grandkids, it is important. It's not just important for them to spend times with their dads or with their granddads. They need a mother. They need a grandmother. They need somebody that can teach them how to keep a house.